Did you know that just like you and I, sand dunes need to move to stay healthy? So a sand dune is basically just a pile of sand that was brought in either by wind or by waves into an area. And you can see them in deserts or along coastlines throughout the world. A really cool sand dune to actually check out is Sidney Spit, which is part of the Gulf Islands National Park Reserve.
The problem out on Sidney Spit is invasive plant species there, such as Scotch broom and European beach grass. And the problem with these two plants is that they're really good at holding sand together, to the point where it actually turns into soil. So we have things like full trees growing out on Sidney Spit, which they're not supposed to be. And that's why it's not just one or two species that are at risk there, it's the whole coastal sand dune ecosystem on Sidney Spit that's endangered.
So it's really important for a sand dune to move to be healthy because there are a lot of species that rely on sand dunes to move in order to survive. One of these species is the common nighthawk. And although it's called the common nighthawk, it's not actually a hawk, and it's also not that common. So if you look at its beak actually, you can see it has a perfect little beak for catching bugs, which is what it eats. So if you look over here, there are three kinds of sand dunes and they're all really different. So this one right here is really crowded, and that's from the invasive species. This one right here just feels really hard as well because of the invasive species. And this one has a lot of bare space and the sand is moving really easily. So what the nighthawk does is it just goes and lays its eggs just right beside the grass, just like that in the open sand. There are also other fascinating species like the Edwards beach moth, and these are only found in 3 places in Canada, on Sidney Island, James Island, and Pacific Rim. There are also some really important flower species like the contorted pod evening primrose, and it's a really long name for a little flower. If you were to see this on the beach actually, it just looks like red spaghetti on the sand. And what's happening now is because of the invasive species that are crowding the beach, these flowers and other plants are actually being pushed to the edges of the sand dunes. So if there's a really high tide, it can actually take over the flowers, and then we could actually lose little patches of them. So although these species are all pretty small, they are really special and they all rely on the sand dune ecosystems being healthy in order to survive.
So we definitely encourage you to come out and visit Sidney Spit in the Gulf Island National Park Reserve. If you get out to Sidney Spit, just make sure to look down at your feet because you never know what could be hiding in the sand.